Dignity, respect, value, words that every human soul craves. Abuse, abandonment, pain, poverty are words that we all fear. I was asked to speak today, not because of anything that I've done, but because 464 poor women coffee producers in 2003 in Peru had the courage to begin to search for a way to gain respect and value and dignity. They wanted to find a way out of the abuse and abandonment that they suffered every day of their lives. In 1990, my husband and I started an organic coffee importing business. So we import raw coffees by container loads into the United States and Canada. And our goal was to create a business that would really make a difference in the lives of these coffee producers who we were working with. And in the early 1990s in the United States, there really wasn't any organic coffee. There was only 2 roasters in the country that even roasted organic coffee. So it wasn't a particularly good precursor for starting an organic coffee importing business. But we persevered and building our business the way we felt it should be built until we had enough clients to support ourselves. The company has always worked to build long-term relationships with producer groups. The concept of Cafe Femenino grew out of those long-term relationships. And in 2003, when these 464 women producers made a historical decision to separate their coffee, they came to us and asked us to do something with that coffee. My husband turned to me at that moment and said, "What are we supposed to do with women's coffee?" And for me, it was one of those moments in my life that I'll never forget. It was what we call an aha moment, my epiphany. And I knew that at that moment I was being asked to do something. I didn't know what, I didn't know how, I just knew that my life and the life of these women were going to change. It took a while for me to really understand that events that had happened in my life were connecting me to these women, coffee producers. I had also suffered from abuse and abandonment. And my personal experiences were attaching me to these women in a very deeply personal way. And that's really the story that's at the heart of Cafe Femenino. What I have come to understand over the years of working with Cafe Femenino is that my story and the story of these 464 women is not unique. There are people everywhere, male and female, that connect to this story either because they, a family member, a friend, a co-worker, were also abandoned or abused. The human factor is probably the most important part of Cafe Femenino and one that sometimes we all tend to overlook. In 2007, we held a workshop in Peru, bringing cooperative leaders, bringing women coffee producers, along with NGO representatives from about 10 different countries to really talk about Cafe Femenino, the problems, the benefits, and what needed to happen in order to move this initiative forward for the future. We learned that trainings needed to be provided to the women in leadership, organization, finance, and gender. With this research, we were able to obtain grant funds from CourtAid, who was a long-time partner with us in our projects, and to be able to provide these trainings. So for the past 2.5 years, we've been working towards this end. We have had the opportunity over the years to watch the changes in these women. In the first year, I remember seeing the women hanging their heads. They were afraid. And then the next year, I saw this shyness and this hope in their faces. And most recently, we have watched them move from this bouncing enthusiasm to women that are really full of confidence and grace. It's an amazing journey to watch, and I myself am so grateful for every moment that I've had to be able to share with these women. With Cafe Femenino, we realized that we had to establish requirements for both the producers and the roasters alike. It was a product that belonged to these women, and they had goals that they were hoping to achieve through their coffee. So as an importer, we had to do things a little differently with Cafe Femenino than we did with other coffees. The coffee was the only connector that we had from the producer to the consumer. So the coffee had to tell the woman's story. For the producers, we require that the coffee has both organic and fair trade certification. The audit trail from both of these certifications verifies who produced the coffee. These certifications also bring the best possible price for the coffee to the producers, as well as the additional benefits to the families, communities, and the environment. OPCO, our company, pays an additional premium above the organic and fair trade premiums. We require that this premium be cut out and given directly to the women. So for most of these women, it was the first time in their life that they had ever had money of their own. When a woman has money, she has value. The idea is simple, but it works. And the cultural shift happens very quickly. For the women, this is truly life-changing. She now has some control in her life, and she has control over her coffee, and she begins to realize that she's capable of thinking of other ways that she can improve the life of herself and her family. Some of the other requirements include quality standards for the coffee. Cafe Femenino coffees are not expensive, so the quality has to justify the price. We also require that the women have their own organization under the cooperative structure. This organization provides the needed infrastructure that we need in order to provide trainings and to bring additional resources. For the roasters, we require that they not blend Cafe Femenino coffees with any other coffee. If they did, then we lost the story behind the coffee, and the consumer would not know about the story of these women. We also ask for women in the roasting company to be involved in the roasting, buying, and marketing of Cafe Femeninos, creating a chain of women supporting women. The roasters also required to use the name Cafe Femenino in the labeling of their coffee. And lastly, we require that they donate a small portion of the proceeds of their sale of the coffee to either the Cafe Femenino Foundation and or to a women's crisis organization within their own community, so that we are creating a pay it forward with the work these women have done. Cafe Femenino has been very successful. Some of the most astonishing changes actually come from the men. We now see them doing household chores. We see them taking care of the children. They like that their homes are happier, their families are happier, their wives are happier, and that their incomes have increased. Over the past 2 years, the International Development Bank has been working and providing funding in our first project in Peru, and so they did an evaluation of this and have told us that it's probably one of the most successful programs that they've ever seen, and that the income of these producers has doubled. There's moving them from extreme poverty to poverty. So we still have a ways to go, but we know that we are moving in the right direction. Today we have programs not only in Peru, but also in Colombia, Bolivia, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Rwanda, Brazil, Kenya. We now have over 200 roasters across the world that are roasting and selling Cafe Femenino. We have even one here with us today. When we started the Cafe Femenino Coffee Program, we also founded the Cafe Femenino Foundation, which is actually a totally separate entity. It's a licensed nonprofit organization that is focused on helping women in coffee communities around the world. And this is done through grant requests that allow the women coffee producers to request funds for many different types of projects. So we've funded all kinds of things from health programs, schools, libraries, micro-lending funds, food security programs, raised stoves, water systems, sanitation systems, animal breeding programs, seed programs, weaving, and leadership trainings, just all kinds of things, including emergency aid when that's required. Both OPCO and the Foundation work in conjunction with several other NGOs, such as Child Aid, Green Empowerment, World Vision, Oxfam, just to name a few of them. And with the formation of the women's groups inside the cooperatives, through Cafe Femenino, these outside organizations are able to partner with us or directly with the cooperative or the women's group in order to provide other resources and help. These small producers have many problems that they're dealing with beyond the human rights issue. If coffee is their only cash crop, there are problems, and there's problems with weather, natural disasters, insects, and these families really suffer with the loss of the income. So income diversification, from our standpoint, is really an important piece of this poverty alleviation plan. When prices of coffee are high, then it's not uncommon for these producers to have their coffee stolen. Also, there's a belief that growing more coffee can solve their problems, but as supply increases, then prices fall, and again creating another problem for the coffee family. And additionally, without other income after the coffee harvest, these families experience what we call the thin months. Once the income has been spent during this time, the family reduces the amount of food they eat, they no longer eat meat, or they eat less, or they just go hungry. Finally, one of the primary problems for the producer groups in being able to do a gender-focused program, or even to sell direct to importers or roasters, is the lack of pre-finance funds. The cooperative needs these pre-finance funds in order to be able to pay the producers as soon as they deliver their coffee to the buying station for the cooperative. If the cooperative doesn't have that money at that moment, then those farmers are forced to sell their coffee into the local coyote system that exploits them year after year. So pre-finance funds are very important for this too. As a coffee importing business, the Cafe Femenino initiative, while a wonderful idea, is also extremely difficult and very costly for us to do. The development work is not a typical work of a coffee import business. Coffee importers and exporters really rely on selling large volumes of coffee to generate their profits due to the fact that they only make pennies per kilo on the coffees that they sell. Our costs have included dedicated staff now to work with these grants, to do the reporting, to travel and oversee and maintain these programs. We also are going to come to our end of our funding with Court Aid, so we do not have funding at this point in time to continue with the trainings that we have started. In addition, it's been very, very costly to do all the international trademark work to do something like this. It's been registered all over the world to protect not just us, but to the roasters that are involved with it and the producers. Other concerns for selling business, for business selling a gender-focused product is to develop a new market for the product. The marketing becomes more challenging. We are actually seeing competitors trying to sell the coffee, and though this might seem like a really great idea, what we see is them trying to just have a product that is women's coffee. It's not difficult to separate the coffee, but at the end of the day, all it does is serve to increase the incomes of the people that are selling the coffee and does nothing to help the woman who produced it. In the value chain, the highest risk in coffee is at the bottom of the chain, and it decreases as you move up the chain, but also the highest overhead in the chain is at the retail side of it, and it moves down as you move through the chain. So just something to think about when talking. The other benefits to an importer-exporter who is working directly with producers, though first and foremost is the fact that they actually become part of a cultural change that they are supporting. It's immensely gratifying to see these women whose lives has been changed, watching them move from fear to grace. In 2004, our company sold, when we first started this, 3 containers of Cafe Femenino coffee. Today we import and sell over 35 containers of Cafe Femenino, which equates to probably a little over 600,000 kilos of coffee. The coffee is sold across the United States, Canada, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Great Britain, Sweden, and now the Netherlands by over 200 coffee roasters. It truly is a wonderful, successful story. Cafe Femenino has set our company apart from other companies. We are recognized and respected for the work that we have done. It has brought us great joy to know these producers and to witness the change that it's brought. We are really proud of what our company has been able to accomplish. Some of the benefits for the businesses are, I'm just going to kind of let you read those so we can move a little quicker through this. And additionally, there are a number of benefits that for the producers who are involved in this program. I'll let you read through those. And as I finish up, I just want to say I really believe with all my heart that we need to help businesses, consumers, and organizations alike to see and hear the message of hope that we can bring. We do have the ability to bring dignity, value, and respect to millions of women through our efforts, support, partnerships, and collaboration. We have learned from those first 464 women coffee producers that with a simple product like coffee or tea or cocoa, we can change the world, giving millions of women dignity, value, and respect. And it doesn't really matter how difficult the task is. Do we just forget these suffering women because the work is too hard or the price is too high? Of course not. We need to do this, from my perspective, because it is the right thing to do. Thank you.